The house was quiet, too quiet. It used to be filled with laughter, the pitter-patter of tiny feet, and the sweet sound of a child's giggle. Now, all that remained were echoes of what once was haunting the corners of our home and our hearts. I stared at the empty crib in what was once our daughter's room. The pastel walls seemed to mock me, reminding me of the dreams we had for her, the future that was so cruelly snatched away. The day we lost Emma, a part of me died too. I could see the same hollow look in Laura's eyes. She had been my rock, my anchor, but now we were both adrift in a sea of sorrow. Laura and I used to be inseparable, but grief has a way of driving wedges where there once were none. We began to drift apart, each of us consumed by our own pain. We rarely spoke, and when we did, it was as if we were strangers. I could see the sadness in her eyes, the way she would withdraw into herself. It felt like we were living in different worlds, both marooned on islands of our own despair. In an attempt to find solace, I threw myself into work. Long hours at the office became my refuge, a way to numb the pain that never seemed to leave. Laura, on the other hand, turned to her art. She spent hours in her studio, painting her grief in shades of blue and gray. Her silence was deafening, a constant reminder of the distance between us. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I came home to find Laura sitting on the floor of our living room, surrounded by canvases. Her face was streaked with tears, her eyes red and swollen. Without a word, I sat down beside her. For the first time in months, we held each other and let the tears flow, our sobs mingling in the empty space that once echoed with our daughter's laughter. That night marked a turning point. We didn't talk about Emma or our pain, but simply being together, sharing our grief, felt like a small step toward healing. Over the next few weeks, we began to reconnect. It was slow and awkward at first, like learning to walk again after a long illness. We took baby steps, trying to find a new rhythm to our lives. I suggested we take a trip, get away from the house that held so many memories. Laura was hesitant, but eventually agreed. We traveled to a small coastal town, a place neither of us had been before. It was there, amidst the salty air and the sound of the waves, that we began to find each other again. We talked for hours, sharing our fears, our guilt, and our hopes for the future. It wasn't easy, but it was a start. Laura's art began to change too. Her paintings, once filled with darkness, started to show glimpses of light. She painted the sea, the sky, and us. It was as if she was slowly painting our way back to each other. I started to spend more time at home, helping her in the studio, finding comfort in the creative process. Months passed, and while the pain of losing Emma never truly went away, it began to transform into something different. We learned to carry it with us, not as a burden, but as a part of our journey. We attended grief counseling together, something we had resisted for so long, and it helped us to open up in ways we hadn't before. One afternoon, as we sat in our backyard, Laura reached for my hand. I miss her every day, she said, her voice trembling, but I also miss us. I want us to find a way back to each other, to live again, for her. Tears welled up in my eyes as I nodded. Me too, Laura. Me too. We knew it wouldn't be easy, but we were committed to trying. We planted a tree in Emma's memory, a symbol of growth and renewal. As we watched it grow, we found hope in its resilience, much like our own. Slowly, the house began to feel like a home again. It was different, forever marked by our loss, but also by our strength and our love. We discovered that even in the depths of our sorrow, there was room for joy, for laughter, and for each other. In the end, it was not about letting go of the pain, but rather learning to live with it together. And in that process, we found our way back to each other, stronger and more deeply connected than ever before.